So how can we use this to solve a real world problem? Okay, so we're going to plan to create a rectangular pasturing enclosure. Libby has 340 meters of fencing available for the enclosure's perimeter and wants to have an area of 6,000 meters squared. So what dimensions should Libby use? So if you remember, perimeter of a rectangle, so this is a rectangular enclosure, is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And we know that, so you're like, perimeter, what? We have fencing. The fence is the perimeter of the area, right? And we have 340 feet of that fence. So if we wanted to solve for a single variable, so let's say if we wanted to get W by itself, we would subtract 2L. Remember, those are not like terms, so we cannot combine them. And then we would divide everything by 2. So we would get W equals 170 minus L. And I'm using a cursive L so that you don't think that it's an I or a 1 or, any other thing that it could be. All right, so that's part 1. We also need to take the area into consideration. Remember, the area of a rectangle is length times width. And we know that this area should be 6,000 square feet. Or meters squared, sorry, not feet. So then, if I know that W equals 170 minus L, I can replace W right here with 170 minus L. All right. So then I distribute, and I get 170L minus L squared equals 6,000. Okay. So then I could also think about that if I multiply everything by -1. Why do I want to do that? I want my L to be positive. So positive L squared minus 170L equals -6,000. Now I have an equation where I can complete the square. So remember, completing the square is adding B over 2 quantity squared. B over 2 quantity squared. And that would be, you can type that in your calculator. I just happen to already know the answer is 7,225. And I'm adding that to both sides. I'm getting there, guys. I know it's a long one. So then I can factor this to be L minus, remember, I know what the second term is by taking the middle term and dividing by 2. And that's going to equal 1,225 because that is what -6,000 plus 7,225 is. I'm going to take the square root of both sides so that these cancel. But that also leaves me with positive or negative 35. So 1,225 is a perfect square. I didn't have that one memorized. You probably don't have that memorized. So type that in your calculator to figure that out. So my last step to get L by itself is 85 plus or minus 35. And so I have 85 plus 35, which is 120. Or I have 85 minus 35, which is 50. So my length could be 120 or my length could be 150. Okay. And so what that really means is my two dimensions are 120 by 50 for my rectangle. So 120 by 50 would be my dimensions. All right, so maybe not the most efficient way, and there's plenty of programs out there that could have helped us figure this out, but this would be what your program's actually calculating if you were doing it by hand.